captain did right by us once.
Oh,
Now it's ours. Never owned Groundbreaker. Not close. Breathe. Push on, Mark. Incoming!
Walking into a prison. They lock me up, I'm liable to kill everyone trying to get back out.
This might be the loneliest place in the whole system. Let's look around. There's gotta be a few ways through here.
Sublight has arrived. Hey, kid. A little bird told me you could use our help. I said I owed you. And I always pay my debt.
Boy, take me. I thought the chasm outside Stellar Bay was deep. This makes me nauseous.
All right, MSI. I'm not going throughout this speech in public. It needs our help, so get in there and fight!
Well, look who it... I'll be damned. I had heard you'd taken a mechanic under your wing. What's the matter, girl? Couldn't find action...
The captain's treated me right. Better than any of you bored...
Ah, I knew I smelled Monarch when you...
Keep talking.
When you go off and get yourself shot, try to avoid taking one to the face. I'll want it recognized. Haven't you heard? It took some doing, but employing an efficient management strategy of putting... Yes, he is an extraordinarily obstinate fellow, isn't he? But that's between us. As far as my adoring citizens will know. Oh yes, go on, wake them up, add more mouths to... I don't know what half-baked plans that simpleton in a lab coat has been leading you through, but it's... Let me ask you something, Captain. Have you at any point thought about not fucking up our entire...
We're helping.
I'm making actual progress towards stable... If I and my people can ride it out in luxury and happiness, yes. We'll have to agree to do...
Here we go! Everyone all right?
Time to collect the flying bounty.
Waste of company ammo.
Stay down.
Waste of company ammo.
Pathetic. Huh? Taken. It's in trash.
This is nice. Calm before the storm and all that.
Whatever comes of this, I'm just real glad to know you all.
Captain, you've disrupted the balance of power. You've upset the natural order. Do you imagine you're leading you're... The board is the... I'm aware of your propensity for violence. I wish you'd simply cooperated with me. You're the finest marksman in Halcyon. I had a feeling this prison is equipped with an automechanical warden. I've had it... And don't worry. I will inform...
Great work.
They make it look so easy.
Get me out of here!
You don't know how glad I am to see you. You did the right thing. Akande was a monster. And you lunatic, you broke into the board's own fortress just to rescue one... Ah! You've broken the board's strength. You and I are going to have to work harder than ever to save... I would like nothing more than to celebrate this victory. Earth has gone dark. We haven't received... 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared.
So we've got to make do on our own. Seems to me that'll make us stronger in the end anyhow.
You're quite right. We've got no choice but to make do.
You mean...
I'm afraid so, Miss Holcomb. Halcyon is the only... We're in serious trouble, my friend. Do you know what this means for Halcyon? We can't rely on Earth. Yes, we must begin the revival process immediately. We're going to need a leader, and I can't imagine... I can't... We are...
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment she landed in Emerald Vale, her actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists. Engineers, scientists, technicians, and intellectuals. They were among the brightest minds the Earth had ever sent out into the stars. The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Halcyon. The people of Halcyon were nothing if not hardy. In the absence of the board's authority, many of the colony's settlements banded together with a single purpose in mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation, but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Sanjar's civil liberties and worker-centric policies were slow to catch on with the other corporations. But as Halcyon began its long, arduous journey toward recovery, many of Terra 2's smaller townships started adopting MSI's alternative corporate structure, and eventually became entirely self-sufficient. In the coming years, many of these townships managed to eke by, where otherwise they might have starved. Bolstered by her status as savior of humanity, Lilia Hagen ushered Sublight Salvage to a new golden age. Her company grew bolder and more transparent over time, muddying the line between lawful and criminal for the entire colony. The Sublight family would thrive for years to come. Adelaide McDevitt replaced Reed Thompson as the leader of Edgewater. She and her followers transformed Edgewater in their image. Anyone loyal to Reed was pressured into leaving town, and those who stayed behind adapted to her way of life. Adelaide transformed the old cannery into a new garden. The nearby Edgewater Cemetery provided a convenient source of fertilizer. As for Reed Thompson, It was said that he lasted exactly 2 days outside the walls of Edgewater. Years later, a marauder was found in possession of his hat. Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the Groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers, schooled in her family's traditions. The future of the Groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the lifetime employment program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice in the matter. Nearly everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time indeed. Your influence shifted Ellie's perspective. She finally admitted, albeit grudgingly, that she just might need other people. Sometimes. With a steady income from the life insurance payouts, she was finally able to afford a ship of her own. She hired a small crew and flew supply missions to communities on the fringe. Some of them were even legal. After all he'd seen and heard adventuring with you, the vicar Maximilian de Soto renounced his faith and joined the effort to rebuild the colony. Ironically, he finally found the joy that had eluded him over the course of his life, and realized that perhaps he was always meant to be just a simple laborer after all. He quickly dismissed the idea. Once the matter with the Hope colonists was resolved, Junlei bashfully asked Parvati if she'd like to join her permanently on the Groundbreaker, and Parvati enthusiastically, if somewhat awkwardly, agreed. The stories of her adventures spread across the colony, and Parvati soon found herself the center of attention. Having served as the engineer of a renowned spacecraft, tramp freighters and wildcat miners sought her out by name, and in no time, she was a fixture in the Groundbreaker's mechanical ecosystem. She and Junlei were never far apart. Nyoka returned to Monarch to take another crack at making a permanent life for herself. She formed the Charon Group, an MSI subsidiary of ragtag survivalists and wilderness experts. Anyone in need of a guide, or just looking to throw back a beer and swap stories, could find her camping on the trail or clearing an infestation. The SAM unit that accompanied you spread awareness of the product line's superior sanitation and maintenance capabilities across what was left of the colony. This led to a boost in SAM unit sales. Did you know that SAM units are the longest-lasting, toughest-acting cleaning solution in Halcyon? Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. Though he was always haunted by the failures of his past, he was determined to make things right by building toward the future. The revival project was hard and painful work, but in the end, despite limited resources, over half the Hope's colonists were successfully revived. Even after Wells passed away, the Hope scientists and engineers worked night and day to pull Halcyon from the brink of collapse. Their efforts continue to this day, which may be reason enough for optimism. Dr. Wells laid the groundwork for the project to save the colony, but he would never live to see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a few years later. His work was carried on by the scientists and engineers he revived. Life will never be the same in Halcyon. It is widely agreed that the colony has a chance of stabilizing within a generation, owing to the hard work and determination of the surviving colonists. Recovery is a distant goal, and the path is long and uncertain. But the people of Halcyon carry on, determined as ever. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? Long after Wells passed away, you carried on his work with more energy, determination, and brilliance than he could ever muster. The years that followed were hard, but Halcyon survived by the efforts of the Hope's most promising colonists, the greatest of which was you. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.